doors of the Spencer Mansion open. In walks in 2 men. Footstep sound effects. Clop, clop, clop. That's not, it's footsteps. Edit that in post. And it's me and you, where I'm dressed as Chris, you're dressed as Jill. And I go, what is this? Some kind of Resident Evil episode of the Softlock podcast? Yeah.
Door opens.
Okay.
Zombie walks in.
Okay.
I shit my pants and run out immediately and get mauled by dogs.
That's true. I just played the Resident Evil 1, and I opened the door, to the front door, immediately, because I was like, oh, I'm gonna interact with the front door, that seems funny, and then immediately was ravaged by dogs, so I was like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have done that. That's the Resident Evil experience, though, and that's what we're fucking talking about today. We're talking about Resident Evil today. Resident Evil Requiem, Resident Evil 9 in, layman's terms. Is it layman's or layman's?
I think it's layman, because I think it's someone's last name.
Okay, well, Resident Evil 9, I guess Resident Evil Requiem would be layman's terms. But we're gonna interchangeably go between Resident Evil 9 and Requiem, because it's the same thing, unless they pull some stupid, dumb bullshit later on, and Resident Evil 9 is something completely different, like Fallout New Vegas.
They never officially called them 7, 8, or 9, and I feel like that's intentional.
Well, 7 and 8, it's like the Roman numerals are in the title, like in the actual title. I don't, especially with 8, like Village, VII,
yeah.
So I mean that's definitely. But you're right. You are right. Like they could just be like, no, actually they could do that. But yeah, we're talking about Resident Evil today. Resident Evil 9 released a couple of weeks ago. I believe in like last week of March. I got it day 1. I thought Jake was gonna get it day 1, and I was wrong. But that's okay because Jake still has much experience with Resident Evil, and so do I. Resident Evil, I mean, I feel like who doesn't know Resident Evil? It's extremely popular as a game franchise for some reason. It's just permeated the pop culture scene somehow, you know? Like it's just such
Mila Jovovich, man.
Yes, Mila Jovovich is certainly. Yeah, that's kind of like that definitely busted it in a lot of people's like cultural zeitgeist when those movies came out, even though they've been out for like over a decade and a half now. It's still like a lot of people actually really actually watched those when that shit like came out. So you kind of do have like cross generational pull with and cross platform pull with this series, because on one end you have like, you know, the OG people who were playing Resident Evil in the 90s, you know, Resident Evil 4 in the early 2000s, which is where I think most people probably got their start. And then, you know, after the kind of the dark ages of Capcom, and then Resident Evil 7 came out and then pumped some new life, and now you got new fans and the old fans coming in, and then like the weirdos that like saw the movies. Now we're all together. It's very, very popular. I feel like even my mom, I could say Resident Evil, and she's like, yeah, I know about Resident Evil. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, the movies certainly did a lot. I thought Alice was a real character in the games for like a long time.
Is Alice even in the first movie, or is she just some random character that shows up in like the second or third movie?
I don't even know, because Mila Jovovich doesn't play Jill, which would make too much sense. I think that's just her original character. I haven't seen those movies I used to like watch them on like TNT, like when they were on TV, so I don't really have a big connection to them. But I guess my point is like, I feel like for a lot of people, you see Resident Evil on TV on TNT, you see Resident Evil in the arcade games, and then every once in a while they put like a million commercials on TV when a new game's coming out. So it's hard to not know of its existence. But I do know that quite a lot of like modern gamers have never touched a Resident Evil, which is strange.
That is strange. And you know what? I want to get into that, right? But, you know, first, I want to talk a little bit of politics right now.
Oh?
Politics, yes, I want to talk politics. Fucking Poker Night at the Inventory re-released like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, what's going on?
What the fuck's up with that? Isn't that awesome?
And it's not even Telltale. It's like some other company just bought it. I was reading about it this morning.
But it's like a total, not a remaster, but it's just like HD upgraded, and they're selling it for like $10 again, and they just like drop that shit randomly.
Yeah, who's gonna buy that?
Me. Me? It's on Switch, dude. Like, what? That's
They
crazy.
gotta make a sequel. Make a sequel with like fucking like angry video. Like you
There's
gotta
a
get like
sequel.
4 new YouTube or like meme characters.
You mean like a third one?
Wait, is there a second one?
There's a second one. Yeah.
Wait, who's in it?
It's Claptrap. It's Brock
No
Sampson
fucking way.
from Venture Bros. It's Sam
Oh
from
my
Sam and
God,
Max.
Sam.
And then there's Ash Williams from Evil Dead.
Holy
which-
shit!
isn't
Oh, and
that-
GLaDOS is here.
And GLaDOS is the dealer. And
What
also,
the
yeah, and the
fuck?
Monkey Island guy is there too, the captain or whatever. He's also
Mm-hmm.
there. But I actually I was only familiar with Poker Night 2 when I was younger because it was like the most recent one, and it had a bunch of the characters from the first game. You know, because it had Max. So Max was in the first game, but then now it's Sam, but Max is like also there. But also they had Brock Sampson because Venture Bros was kind of like hip at the time, and voiced by Patrick Warburton, and he's like really good. You just hear him like just
Holy
talk.
shit.
He has like a lot of minutes of dialogue. It's very interesting. But yeah, they just like shadow dropped the first one, like re-release essentially, and I've been thinking about it like a lot because like in conjunction, I have also just gotten into like poker and like Texas Hold'em just by happenstance, and I'm like, oh fuck, I have to get this on my Switch. This would be so funny to play on the train on the way to work.
Unironically, so I've never played Poker Night. It doesn't really matter, but video game versions of poker and blackjack and all that are so fun. Like, so
Yeah.
unreasonably fun. I've spent hours playing card games in Yakuza
Yeah.
because there's no stakes. You just get to, like, learn the game and have fun. So I actually think that's a good move.
I also think it's a good move because also it's like just poker. It's not like, oh, this is like, you know, kind of like Balatro is like, it's, you know, it's based on poker, but it's not poker. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But this is like just poker with wacky, zany characters. So there's just something very relaxed about it. I don't know. It's a good idea. I would love for them to make a third one with some modern takes on characters, but we definitely would be getting like Fortnite Jonesy, voiced by
True.
Troy Baker.
Definitely a cheap segue, but also 100% I mean this. They need to put Albert Wesker in one of these.
Oh yeah, Wesker would be really funny. And I just okay, you know who would actually be genuinely hilarious? Okay, think about this. Think about your Poker Night 3 dream table. Let's do Albert Wesker. Let's do I don't know, like let's do like a Valve character or something. Cause or let's do like Walking Dead like Lee or something. And you get like a zany character. Who's like a zany character in video games these days?
Get like fucking like Bubsy.
Bubsy, and then like fourth character, fucking James Sunderland. Wouldn't that be awesome? Be
like PS2 model.
PS2
Not-
James. I would love that. I think that'd be really funny. I think that'd be like so hilarious because also his new you know, James is such like a human character. He's really just like a guy, especially in his newest not his newest actually, because his newest interpretation would be the movie, which I didn't see. But you know, his newest game interpretation is also like very human. The performance done by the dude Robert something, or I don't remember his name, is very impressive. So I would love to see him very like normally playing poker. He's just like, yeah, that sucked.
Yeah, I haven't had much to do since my wife died, so I've just been hitting the tables.
Ever since the incident happened. But yeah, Albert Wesker would be a fun one. And we're going to talk about him a little bit more. Excellent segue right now. But yeah, now let's talk about Resident Evil. And what you were saying. What were you saying right before I cut you off at Poker Night? Because I had Poker Night on the dome. I had to start talking about it. But you were saying that...
Just talking about how
Resident-
most modern gamers have not played Resident Evil, which I feel like that's kind of very inaccurate because obviously it sells millions of copies. But I've talked to a lot of people who play video games regularly that have never played Resident Evil. Maybe that's a personal experience. I don't know.
Yeah, I think, well, you know, most of anything is going to be very hard to achieve. I think you would, I think probably 10% of gamers is actually pretty high. Maybe 5% of gamers have played a Resident Evil before. You know? Like, think about how many gamers are in the world. There's millions. Millions of gamers.
Yeah, but think about how many Resident Evil games there are. So like the law of large numbers.
That's true. I mean, there's like millions of gamers, and there's like sub 15 Resident Evil games. So
There's got to be like 40 Resident Evil games.
I think there's like 20.
If we're counting like fucking the rail shooters and the 3DS and all the handheld, there's got to be like 40.
Well, I think there was. Oh well, yeah, they did kind of just pump out random spin-offs in the early 2010s. Revelations, Mercenaries, Operation Raccoon City, a lot of weird shit. I think there's I think it's Operation Raccoon City is the one where you play as just random like BSAA like cleanup squad or whatever after like I don't really remember it. I think one of the missions is you like kill Leon Kennedy or something like that.
Holy shit.
Yeah, it's really weird. But we're not going to talk about those fucking games because we didn't play those fucking games. And I don't care about them. And I don't think anyone else cares about them either. Let's talk about the games that everyone really cares. The numbered, normal, straight shot Resident Evil games. There's 9 of them.
Okay.
In that order. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then there's Resident Evil Biohazard. But the numerals make a 6 or a 7. And then there's Village, which makes it 8. And now there's Requiem, which does not make anything with its numerals, but that's 9.
Well, the Q is the 9.
What?
The Q in Requiem. That's the 9.
Is that what they're going? Is that true?
Yeah.
Okay, well that's a bit silly. That's a bit too much for me.
So just to put out some context so we don't have to talk about every single one, whether we have or haven't played it, what is your experience with the franchise? Which ones have you or have you not played?
Well, I started playing Resident Evil, which I think a lot of Zoomers probably started it the same way, and also young, very, very late millennials, like my brother, who was like 1996. I think people in those age groups probably started their first Resident Evil game with 7, is what I'm going to guess. Because Resident Evil 4 came out in 2004 or so, and I think that was we were a bit too young for that. Unless you had like an older sibling who kind of had the Resident Evil games. But I think our generation is going to be most familiar with like 4 and onwards, you know?
Yeah.
Particularly with 7, because 7 kind of had essentially like a renaissance when that shit came out in 2016, I think.
Sounds right.
And that's the one I started with. I was aware of Resident Evil, but now it became like accessible. Now it wasn't really like, because you know when I was younger, you'd hear about like Resident Evil 4 and Resident Evil 5 and 6 coming out, but you know when you're a kid and you didn't play 1, 2, 3, and 4, you're kind of like, oh okay, well that's interesting, but I'm not gonna pick that up. But then Resident Evil Biohazard came out and it wasn't really advertised as Resident Evil 7. It was just like Resident Evil, and then they kind of made it like a point that it was like a new beginning in a way, playing as a new protagonist, completely unrelated story to the rest of the games, all like no returning characters. So it was like, oh okay, let me actually pick this one up. And I remember I picked it up and I brought 2 friends over and we played the beginning. And then as it was like getting a little spooky where like enemies were showing up, they had to leave. And then I played it and I really enjoyed it. That was my first Resident Evil game. What about you?
So my first Resident Evil game was also 7 because it came bundled in with my PSVR that I got it on Black Friday the year after it came out, so 2017. I played probably the majority of the house section of that game in VR with my girlfriend and my mom watching me. And I thought it was so scary. But then I started college and I didn't bring the PSVR with me. And that is kind of where that ended. I never went back to 7. My most experience with 7 is watching you play 7 from start to finish. I've never actually finished that game.
Yep.
And then I wouldn't rediscover the franchise until 2023. There was like a super sale where you got RE2 and 3, like the super special editions together for like $15. So I got those and like I fell in love with those. And I've been trying to like gobble up everything I can ever since.
Yeah. Once you're kind of in, it's very tantalizing to just kind of want to play the other ones, and that is really funny. Wait, So you got it bundled with your PSVR. It doesn't come with like the base version. It only comes with the VR version. It's like separate things.
No. The Resident Evil 7, like it came with the PS4 game, but you can play the whole game in VR. It's not a separate disc.
Oh, so
it's
you were like, oh well, I'm not gonna not play the VR, is what you said.
Well, I guess I see what you mean. Yeah, I felt like because I started it in VR, I have to finish it in VR, and I just never got around to it.
I mean, I will say it was a very fun experience to play it in VR. I would even do it again. It was very immersive. Now, that's the only game I've ever played in VR, really.
It's probably the best VR game. I know, actually, I think RE8 is actually
RE8.
fully playable in VR as well, which I didn't even know.
And I think RE4...
The original 4 has a VR version, and then the 4 remake has, like, a VR experience. I don't think it's the whole game.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But so I've gone on since then. I've played 2 remake, 3 remake, 1 remake, 4 remake, and then just getting ready now for 9. I've replayed all of those. I just finished 3 last night, so I'm up to 3. We've played 4 first, so I've done all 4 remakes again now. And, I played 8 at launch, which you've never played 8, right?
No, that's the only one I missed. I mean, besides 5 and 6. Which,
yeah, I think
we'll talk about that.
I think you'd like 8. 8's pretty cool. It's
yeah,
fun.
I mean, I have 8, and I'm gonna play it soon, I think. But I was just like, I wasn't there. I got you. Wrong. I just somehow managed to miss it.
Takes a lot of effort to want to play as Ethan Winters, but we'll talk about that.
I like Ethan. I'm not even gonna front. I like Ethan. I think he's funny.
Fucking hate Ethan.
I
hate
love
Ethan so
Ethan. Dare I say I love him. He's just so there.
He is just a guy. That's true.
Just a dude. Well, not
but
really, but we'll talk.
I am trying to get fully caught up before I play 9, which is what you said. I didn't buy it at launch. I'm sort of like, I felt not like a fake fan because I know you don't really need to play 5 and 6, especially 6. But I have 5 and 6, and I have Code Veronica. So I was like, I feel like if I have all these games, why would I buy the new one when I could enjoy myself playing these older ones? So I kind of nixed Code Veronica after reading about how fucking insanely hard it is.
Right, yeah.
So I actually bought 2 3D printed Wii Zappers on Amazon for $10. And me and Sam have been playing Resident Evil The Dark Side Chronicles on Wii, which is a rail shooter retelling of Code Veronica and Operation Javier. And so that's what I'm experiencing those stories through, and then I'm going to play 5 and 6.
You are fucking nuts. I
gotta be honest.
You would do all that. You would do all that before playing Pizza Tower again. Blows my mind.
Yeah, I would actually.
Every time I talk about Pizza Tower, you're like, yeah, I gotta play it again. Instead of doing that, I'm gonna 3D print fucking zappers and play the Dark Side Chronicles on Wii.
Dark Side Chronicles? Very fun.
I believe that. That actually does kind of fun.
But okay.
Any light shooter on a Wii. Let us first give a quick definition.
Yeah.
Let's give a quick run through of what a Resident Evil games are, because I think a lot of people see Resident Evil, and the most iconic parts of Resident Evil games are the beginnings of the game. Like every Resident Evil game, you think of like think about it in your mind's eye. Look up any part of it online. It's always the beginning of the game. Resident Evil 1, Spencer Mansion. Resident Evil 7, the beginning with Jack. Resident Evil 2 Remake, the police station. Resident Evil 4 Remake, the opening village. It's always the beginning of the game.
Well, that's because they always end in a sterile lab.
Exactly. So most people just think it's like, oh, it's zombies, and like that's kind of it. Not most people, but I feel like if you look at an outsider's perspective, you look at it, you're like, oh, it's just zombies. That doesn't really sound very interesting. No. So Resident Evil are basically B movies that are kind of like misnomers for zombies. So like they're zombies in the beginning, right? And you're like, oh, like the undead rising, like, oh, this is like kind of spooky. No, actually it's more about this like bioweapon plotline. Every game is actually about bioweapons, hence the Japanese title of the franchise, which is called Biohazard. Every plot is revolving around this zombie outbreak but it's really more like mutations. I think is a better term for them, because they're all created with like either a virus or like a parasite or a disease or something like that is mutating these people, and they may be zombies like in the beginning, right? Like just normal zombies in the beginning, but like throughout the game, then you find like just really weird shit like bug men, giants infected by like parasites, like people's heads like exploding, and then giant like scythes like shooting scythes, you know, like big bladed appendages like shooting out of their head and like swinging towards you. The game gets really, really weird. All of them do that, and then there's usually like a lab, and then giant mutating creatures and shit like that. They're very, very bizarre. And they are B-movie as hell. The plots are just genuinely really dumb. The dialogue is just cheesy and silly. There's plenty of like, you know, standout like moments, I would say, but they're all very like campy, more or less.
But
so don't
they're
go
all very
into Resident
memorable
Evil.
though.
They are very memorable, but they're not like, oh man, they did that like really artistically and really well done. Like, oh no, that was fun. You know what I mean? Like,
well, that's what I think.
Yeah.
That's what I enjoy about them so much, and what I think makes them so good is that they, well, I don't know about whenever they started to go downhill, but for the most part, they know how to balance taking itself super seriously, but also not taking it seriously at all. Like, they know that their dialogue isn't great, but they present it to you with the best visuals and cinematography and like super serious voice acting, to the point that it's like, it's just so enjoyable to watch everything unfold and try and like give yourself over to it, knowing that it's not supposed to be super serious, I guess.
Yeah, no, it's very believable, I would say. The way they portray everything, the context of the situations and these monsters and like what's going on, the viruses, very believable. How they did that with the, you know, I don't know really what they did with like the tone and just how these characters like react to all these things, but you know, you can buy into the world of Resident Evil very easily. I think some of the other games kind of you might be a little like okay, I don't know, like Resident Evil 3 like with like Nemesis like running around is a bit like bizarre for me. Something about it like blows my mind, because it's just like a giant dude in like a trash bag suit with a flamethrower, just like picking up Jill and like throwing her across the city and going like stars, and then he like blows up and mutates into like another thing. That is kind of a little more hard to buy into than like, I don't know, Mr. X from Resident Evil 2, who is probably the best thing that Resident Evil has ever done. So, you know, it's all like give and take. Even the smallest thing can make you be like, okay, this is kind of stupid, you know, versus you're like completely invested into it. And they kind of vary wildly game by game. And, you know, with a series that has gone as long as Resident Evil, almost about 30 something years.
I think it is 30 years. Right?
Yeah.
96?
I think Resident Evil 1, was it 96? I think so. Yeah, it's been about 30 years. Or it might have been 30 years since...
March 22nd, 1996. It's like 3 days from now. It'll be the 30th anniversary.
Of the first one?
Yeah.
Wow, that is really cool.
In the Japanese release date, I guess. April 1st in US.
Yeah, it don't matter. But yeah, pretty much, you know, in 30 years, you're going to get a little up and downs. You know what I mean? But like the actual games themselves, that's like kind of referred to as the godfather of survival horror, which is another term that is transformed wildly across 30 years, you know? Survival horror, I mean, compare Resident Evil 1 with Resident Evil 4 Remake. Very different takes on survival horror. IMO.
Yeah, it's definitely more like horror action, you know, adventure.
Yeah, so I think let's talk about the series. Let's maybe go game by game, perhaps.
Sure.
And then we're going to get to the real meat, which is talking about Resident Evil Requiem, which I have full insider scoop on. And Jake is going to be my titillated audience sitting on the edge of his seat asking me questions.
Starving to know more about the game.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of questions to ask, and I have a lot of answers. So, but let's talk about the first one, Resident Evil 1. I just played through it. I know you played through it, but let me make a clarification. I don't think either of us has played through the first like actual original trilogy. PS1,
no.
1, 2, 3. Yeah. They've remade all 3 of those games. Those games are not really accessible to us, so we just didn't play them. Also, we weren't born. So
That is true.
Kind of makes it a bit difficult to get your hands on them when you start making money 30 years after the game gets released. So I've never played those. Sorry. But we have played the remake of Resident Evil 1, which I'm pretty sure is almost a straight up replacement for playing the first one, if I can recall.
I mean, I know that there's fans of the original trilogy, of course, but I feel like most people would agree that the GameCube release is the definitive way to play RE1. And like, if you want that old school experience for 2 or 3, there's still a lot of value to go back to the old school ones if you want to emulate it or whatever.
3. Yeah.
Yeah, but for 1, I don't think there's really a case to go back to the PlayStation version.
Yeah, I mean, Resident Evil Remake for GameCube came out in 2003, I think. Came out like right before Resident Evil 4, I believe. And that game just looks really, really good. Like today, it looks amazing still. And you know, it still has a bunch of the hallmarks of kind of like the original series, with the pre-rendered backgrounds and environments, and you know, like the loading doors, which the original had. And it is, you know, the closest you're gonna get to playing the originals without playing the originals for sure. And I think it still holds up to this day. I thought it was an excellent experience, and it was full, you know, survival horror. Considering that I was fighting for my fucking life the entire game, and I had like no tools at my disposal the whole time. Like Resident Evil 4. Let's talk about Resident Evil 4. Even the original Resident Evil 4, you had like all these tools at your expense. You know, grenades and drop kicks and suplexes and shit like that. Resident Evil 1, it's like you have your gun. If they get too close to you, you're like cooked essentially, unless you have like a knife.
RE4, you kill an enemy, they drop bullets. In RE1, there's like 10 magnum bullets in the entire fucking game.
Yeah, it's like, get fucked, idiot. And you know, I saved the what is it, the rescue pistol or whatever.
What the fuck is up with that?
It's like the gun that does like 9,999 damage.
Okay,
I don't know.
It doesn't do that damage to fucking Tyrant in the final battle.
Oh, it did. Well, he just has a lot more health than 9,999.
I kind of assumed that was going to take out like half his health bar. I used it first, and then I still was fighting for my life for a little bit.
Oh, really? What I did was that I did the emergency gun, and then I shot him like 3 times with my Magnum, and then the game was over. I was like, okay, well, which is good because I don't, you know, your evasion skills in that game are not great. It's really not great.
So let me ask you an important question.
Sure.
So you're playing the 2015 version, right? The like remaster?
Yes.
Okay. Did you play with tank controls or analog controls?
I played with analog controls.
Okay. All right. So when I played this game, the remake for the first time in 23, I used the analog controls, and I just could not get my head around the tank controls. Mm-hmm. Since then, I've played a lot more games that either have to use the tank controls or benefited from it. So this time when I played it last week, I used all tank controls for the entire game. I really think it improves the experience significantly. So if you ever give it another shot, try and get it in, like, get your brain used to the tank controls, because you were talking about the evasion and all that.
Yeah.
Being able to bait zombies with the tank controls and walk backwards and then sneak around them and like move around corners and stuff with the tank controls, I think is much more satisfying.
That's true. I actually didn't think about like being able to strafe and walk backwards. That was a instance that I was not able to experience myself, unless I get the DS version of Resident Evil 1, which I've heard
is pretty good.
Yeah, what is it? Deadly Silence or some shit like that?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Too bad it's like $180 just the cartridge alone. So I guess I'm not gonna do that. But maybe one day I will, because that seems like a lot of fun, low key. That's like the original version too, which I think is always funny. I love old retro games being ported to weird shit like 3DS and ES and stuff like that. Like I love that kind of thing. I wish more games did it. frankly. Like, imagine like Final Fantasy VII on 3DS. That would have been awesome. That would have been great. But that didn't happen. But yeah, the first Resident Evil game, that's real survival horror right there, because you're in these very claustrophobic hallways in the Spencer mansion. You're like running around, you're doing puzzles, and I think what really makes it that survival horror, which actually it's a mechanic that was essentially like abandoned until recently, that I think they really, I'm like surprised they never brought it back because it's so effective. But the Crimson Heads in Resident Evil 1. So when you go through the mansion, there's zombies and shit like that. And ideally, you're probably going to be like, oh, well, I want to kill those zombies. You kill a zombie and you don't like destroy its head or burn it, there's a chance, and it increases with time, that they're going to come back as a stronger version of themselves. They're going to mutate into something called a Crimson Head, and they're much faster and they're much stronger. So it's really a thinking game. When I first played the game, I played as Chris, because I heard Jill was like, not easy mode, but like has all the perks to her. So I was like, oh, I'm going to play as Chris first, because I don't want to play as Jill first and then get really frustrated when I play Chris. Like, I don't want to know good yet. So let me play Chris. Chris has nothing. Chris has like one more hit point. And in response to that, he has 2 less inventory slots, doesn't get the grenade launcher, and doesn't get the lockpick. All of which are perks that are virtually invaluable to Resident Evil as a whole.
I gotta say, so having played this again now, I felt... So the first time I played this game, I played as Jill first, and then I felt like I got like the true experience playing as Jill. So this time I wasn't as scared. I knew a little bit of what was going on. I think Chris is definitely good for a second playthrough, not a first playthrough, because he does actually do quite a lot more damage with the knife. And I feel like using the knife is very tricky if you're not used to the game.
Oh, he has a higher crit chance too. I forgot to mention.
Yeah, which is important.
Which is a mechanic that you'll never realize it's happening because it's never explained to you. But it's in like every game.
But having the lighter at all times as Chris I actually think is a pretty significant advantage over Jill, because sure, Jill has extra inventory slots, but having to take up those 2 slots for the lighter and the fuel, I don't know. Obviously, I would rather have the lockpick, but I think there's benefits to both. Like, I think they're both fun to play in different ways.
Oh, I actually think that playing a first playthrough with Chris was actually like almost the better decision for me, because I really was fighting for my life the entire game, because I just didn't have as many pathways and options that Jill ended up having. Jill gets the rocket, not the rocket launcher, she gets the grenade launcher, and like Chris doesn't even get like a alternative to that. He doesn't even,
and
like,
Jill gets the combat shotgun.
Jill gets Chris every weapon plus the grenade launcher. Chris doesn't like get like his own version. Yeah, exactly. Well, you can get the combat shotgun as Chris.
Oh,
I did.
Oh wait, how?
You have to save Richard.
Okay, that's how you get it as Jill. I guess I didn't save Richard.
Oh, you get Chris. It? Yeah, you get it at a different point as when you play as Chris. So if you want to get the combat shotgun as Jill, you have to save Richard, and then when you fight Yawn for the first time, Richard shows up, and then he dies immediately. Meanwhile, if you play as Chris, he doesn't show up for Yawn if you save him, but he'll show up for when you fight Neptune, which is the sharks, and instead he'll get eaten by the sharks.
Oh no.
So I don't blame you for not getting the combat shotgun for Chris. But yeah, like in Resident Evil 2, which also has split protagonists, Claire and Leon have a totally different weapon pools that don't interact with each other at all. So it's really funny that they just said, Chris, you just don't get the grenade launcher, which is probably the best weapon in the whole game, just by its versatility and power. It's so good. And also...
Yeah, but can you imagine carrying around all those different ammo types as Chris, though?
No, I can't, because it'd be torture. But let's also talk about how Jill can get 2 magnums. You can get the You can get you can get the Magnum from the cemetery for doing the puzzle, and then if you decide to not give Barry's Magnum back, you can get 2 Magnums. Not that it's really useful, but like, okay, that's just another thing she can get. She has 2 opportunities to get the Magnum. And then let's talk about how fucking Barry bails Jill out of like multiple scenarios throughout the mansion.
Yeah, and it's like the correct way to do things. Like, you can get the shotgun as Jill just the same way you get it as Chris, or you could just fuck up and then Barry gives it, like, he lets you have it.
Yeah, Barry just shows up and saves your ass, and he's like, okay, like, he just bypasses a whole puzzle just for funsies. Ridiculous. It's ridiculous the way they like balance the 2 characters. And so that's why I'm saying I actually really enjoyed the fact that I played as Chris for the first time, because I just had nothing. There was nothing helping me. I really was fighting for my life. And I was in those hallways. I was in those trenches. And I was like, okay, I can't go through this door. I can't go through this hallway because there's 2 Crimson Heads and I really don't want to fight them. I don't have enough ammo, but I need to get into this room. So maybe if I go through this pathway, I'll fight the dogs instead. And then I'll go through the one-way door. Because the knob, you know, that
don't
one
get me
door
started on the fucking one-way door.
I'll go through the one-way door, and then I'll open up that shortcut, and then you know, I started pathfinding, which is a very rare thing in games. Like, you have to have really good design for your players to be like, okay, I need a pathfind, and I remember this path, and I am making a strategy. That's a very impressive feat, I think, in my opinion. And I really did that, and then I would, you know, do all these plans, and then I would just fuck it up anyway because I forgot like a fucking old key or something.
Yeah, there's a ton of player expression which you wouldn't expect from a game that appears to be so rigid. You know, like, it's so like you were going to play this game my way, and then as you learn the ways that it's trying to guide you, you realize, oh well, I can cheat the system here, I can make a shortcut here, I can do this extra thing. It's I think Resident Evil 1 Remake is one of the best games of all time. I think it's probably my favorite GameCube game.
I'm
not
valid.
sure. But it's not my favorite Resident Evil
Forget about Super Mario Sunshine, Buster?
Hey, fuck you. I'm trying to think of if there is a GameCube game I even like more than it, but the entire time I was playing it the entire time, I just kept saying to myself, God, this game is so good. Oh my God, this game is so good. But I actually prefer the RE2 remake. Oh, I would play RE2 remake like 7 days a week over this game.
That's valid. That's valid because the RE2 remake has like the sauce behind it. I don't know what they put in that RE engine, but they had some magic behind it. You really feel like you're in those halls. I played through RE2 remake several times. Like, I probably played that through that game. If you count the A and B scenarios as 2 different playthroughs, I played that game like 8 times.
Yeah, if you count them separately, I think I played both A and B twice, and then I played Leon A again, so like 5 times, yeah. That game is the only horror game that has ever scared me. That game, like you said, I'm in those halls, and when a licker climbs around the side of the wall, I legitimately like jump out of my seat every time, even if I know it's gonna be there.
Yeah, especially in like the B scenario where the licker like busts through the interrogation room. That gets me every time. And of course, the Resident Evil 2, you play as 2 different characters, Leon and Claire, and you're now in a police station. I mean, the gameplay is like virtually, I wouldn't say identical, but you know, it's the same exact DNA, but evolved over about like a decade and a half. And you know, of course, it's the same kind of like, you know, Resident Evil's Metroidvanias? I wouldn't say so, right? Because you don't really get power-ups that totally bypass previous obstacles. You just kind of like...
Right.
Yeah, but, you know, you get very intimate with these big, like, hub areas, essentially, like the police station, and then you go to the sewer, and then the lab. And while you are wandering through these halls, instead of the Crimson Heads to kind of, like, thwart your progress and change the way you're thinking, instead of Mr. X or the Tyrant, and I think he is the best thing in Resident Evil, like, period. He has the sauce, like 100%. The Mr. X is this big dude who just shows up maybe like a quarter through the game and just stalks you for like a significant chunk of the game. And he's got these big, meaty footsteps. He's in a big trench coat, he's in big boots, and he's wearing a fedora for some reason, which is just hilarious to me because he's like a bioweapon. He's like this fucked up creature made in a lab, and he has like a thing in his brain. You could see it in his model. He's got like a USB drive like stuck in his head that's giving him like orders to kill Leon and Claire or whatever. And he's just like wearing a hat on top of that. He's just wearing like a normal fedora on top of that.
Yeah, it's really funny.
And you can shoot it off. And if you lose him, he comes back later and he's like wearing the hat, which means like he went back and picked it up. Or he got like a new hat somehow. They requisitioned like a new hat, like airdropped to him. They're like, here's a new hat. I think Mr. X is like the best, one of the best instances of a stalker enemy in survival horror, and just one of the best uses of sound and like visual design in video games. And I say that because I don't even think Mr. X is like that fun of a concept, because he just kind of like gets in your way, and there's lots of moments where you're just like, ugh, I can't believe Mr. X is in this hallway when I need to be in this hallway. But I'm just so enamored with his design and how they made him that like I'm just in love with him. I just love what he, I don't know, what do you feel about him?
Is this a safe space?
This is a safe space. You gonna say you don't like him?
I don't know. I'm of two minds about Mr. X. Because on your first playthrough, I think it's an incredible mechanic to help you, force you rather, to explore areas you haven't been to yet in order to get around him. On repeat playthroughs, I just really don't like dealing with him.
Yeah, he is really annoying. That's what I'm saying. He's like really annoying. But again, like I said, it's like he grows on you so fast, in my opinion, that I'm like, oh man, it's Mr. X, fucking son of a bitch. I just think his footsteps specifically, like his theme, play his theme right now. That theme playing, and then you're hearing his like footsteps, which is that like, it's such an iconic. I really think it's just an iconic sound effect.
Yeah,
you play that anywhere, and I'll be like, oh, that's fucking Mr. X, and brings back memories, because it's almost like a Pavlovian like bell, where I'm like, oh, I gotta leave like now, Like, every time you hear it, you're like, oh, I gotta go. I have to go like right now. I just think it's such like an iconic series of visual and audio stimuli that has been essentially tattooed into my brain. I just love it. So even when I'm like, oh, it's Mr. X, like he's like fucking me up, I'm like, that guy. Love that guy.
I like the idea of Mr. X.
Yeah, I like the idea of Mr. X. And then
this is actually one place, and we can talk about all the other places that it fails, but this is one place that I think the RE3 remake actually succeeds. Is the dodge fucking sucks in that game, but the way it lets you get around Nemesis is something that I wish you had in RE2, because then he can still follow you and pursue you and force you into locations. But if you're like literally trapped in a corner, or the only place you have to go is where he is, at least then you'd have the option to get around him, and it's risky, but you can still do it. You
just have to learn the jukes for Resident Evil 2. If you really want to get on some big boy level shit, you have to learn like the jukes and doing like the pivots. And I don't actually mind that for Resident Evil 2, because it has such a good game feel. Like you said earlier, like I'm in those hallways. Like I'm there. Like I feel it.
It has the best shotgun in video games.
It has a really, really good shotgun. And then, okay, we keep on alluding to Resident Evil 3, so let's just talk about Resident Evil 3. Resident Evil 3 Remake, the shotgun is really, really bad.
It's really bad.
I don't know how they fucking did it.
The gunplay in Resident Evil 3 is bad, and I don't know why why didn't they just copy RE2?
It's a totally different game feel. It's a totally different game feel, even though it looks exactly the same. It's in the same exact engine. They just like, I don't know what the fuck they did. I'm pretty sure Resident Evil 3 was in development at the same time as Resident Evil 2, and it must have gotten like the B squad or something, and they were just like, whatever. That's
literally how the originals were made. Was 2 and 3 were made at the same time, because 3 was supposed to be a spin-off. But they have admitted this. It's not like a secret. RE3 Remake was only made because it was the story mode for RE Resistance, and I've never played Resistance for good reason.
Is Resistance the one, or is that RE-verse? Is Resistance the one where you play as the three, as like the four like randos and go through? Yeah,
that's Resistance.
There's like the overseer. It's like a what do you call it? The Dead by Daylight's asymmetrical horror.
Asymmetric horror, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then RE-verse was like the fucking fighting game.
Yeah, RE-verse was like the team deathmatch game, like which actually looked kind of fun, but I never got around to it.
Yeah, I'm maining Jack Baker.
Yeah, I'm maining Hunter Gamma.
God. Yeah, what were you saying?
So, RE3 was when they announced it, they showed a trailer for Resistance, and they were like, and here's the story mode for Resistance that we've been talking about. And then they just played a trailer for RE3 Remake, and they were like, guess what? This is the story mode. And so I have to imagine that the reason RE3 feels like that is because it's probably built off of the multiplayer version of that game.
Dare I say,
not built off the
right.
single player.
You're probably right, because the game feel is so different. It's much more floaty. It's much more like fast-paced and action-oriented. But like in response, like in congruence with these changes, it lacks so much weight and impact that it's like doesn't feel very good to play.
Yeah, like half that game you're playing as Carlos with a fucking assault rifle, and I feel like
yeah, like
you have
non-punchy, shitty recoil assault rifle.
Yeah, and then you get like, I don't know. I know that you absolutely hate RE3 Remake. I think it's a good experience for the way it makes you feel like you're always on the run. You're always you never have a moment to just sit and chill like an RE2 where you can make plans. 3, you're just constantly moving. And that's the one place that I think the gunplay actually complements it, because a lot of the time I'm not killing enemies. I'm just, smashing them with a shotgun so I can run around them while they're stunned. And that fits for the type of game it is, but just compared to how punchy 2 is and how reactive the NPCs are in 2, it leaves a lot to be desired.
I will say, you are ever the optimist, always finding a silver lining. And, I agree with you to a certain extent, but it's just like, I think there's other games that I own that I think do what RE3 was. And, frankly, I don't even know what they were trying to do. You know what I mean? So I can't even say, what they were trying to do. But I feel like I can play games that do what RE3 did, but like better. And I enjoy it more. You know what I mean? Like I'm literally gonna play through RE3 again. I have a dumb feeling I'm gonna like it. Unfortunately, I really do feel like I'm gonna play through RE3 again and like it.
RE3 is surprisingly hard. So I would actually encourage you to try out the hardcore mode.
I think it was just because RE3 I think is just kind of what is the worst of what Resident Evil has to offer. What you were saying about RE1 and RE2, where there's so much freedom of expression in your players. You know what I mean? And I think that might be something that I really value in video games, because there's so much segments in RE3, especially in like the beginning, like the city segment, where it's just like you're put in these scenarios where you're just like, all right, hold down the sprint button and go through this hallway while things blow up around you. And like, it feels like you're playing a game. Like the game is trying to tell you, like, you're playing a game right now. You're running through these exploding hallways and Nemesis is right behind you. You better run. But you're not really doing anything. You're just holding down.
It's very on rails.
Yeah, you're just holding down the sprint and like walking forward. It's like, that's one of my least favorite parts of what video games do, is because it's just like, I think it's disingenuous. It's like, look at all this stuff. Aren't you excited? It's like, no.
Yeah, and there's very few pre-rendered cutscenes. Like, a lot of this stuff happens in engine, so it's like, you're playing the game. Didn't you know? You're playing this, even though you have no control, and if you press a button, nothing happens.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. That's my least favorite. One of my least favorite things that video games like can do. And that really takes me out of it when it's trying to convince me that something is happening, but I know it's not happening. Because they really didn't like put in any effort. Like, imagine the fucking Warthog run at the end of like Halo 1 or 3, and it's just like totally on rails and you're not actually influencing anything. Halo 3, especially the Halo 3 Warthog run, you are going straight. You need to go to this one area, but there's so many options and decisions that you can make, however minor, even if they don't matter. You're like, I'm gonna go high instead of going low. It really doesn't even matter, but like, you can make that decision, and then you can also like fuck it up too in like your own way. It's very expressive. That's like an on rails segment that I actually really enjoy, because I don't know, there's just, I feel like I'm actually playing the goddamn game. You know what I mean? Also, Resident Evil 3, like, significant parts of it was like cut out of the remake of the original. Like, there's like 2, I think, sections that have just been either totally shortened or I think totally removed. I think it was like the clock tower or some shit from the original that they just like took out of the game. Just not present in the game at all.
Yeah. I mean, I never played the original, so I don't really have a horse in that race.
Yeah.
But like, the stuff they cut out of RE4, I think is a little more egregious, personally.
Yeah, they did cut out a big part of RE4. Which I don't really mind too much, but yes, you're right. Wait, you didn't even fucking play the original. How do you know?
But I told you I've watched my friend play that game from start to finish more than 3 times probably.
Yes, they did cut out the cave section of the original Resident Evil 4. But, yeah, but Resident Evil 3 also, the thing that really bothers me is that it's just like, it's, they cut so much, and then, but the game is like less than 5 hours.
Yeah, I don't know what it retailed at, but this is certainly a story mode. It is not a game.
No, yeah, exactly. It feels like something is missing. Like, oh, there's a different mode. I mean, which I guess is true. Like if you're gonna actually play RE-verse, or not RE-verse, Resistance, Resistance or whatever. Which I don't even think, is it even up anymore?
Probably not. I know RE-verse is down, so I'm sure Resistance is.
That's so sad. Yeah, I don't know. Like I remember I got it, and I don't remember if I got it on sale. I'm sure I did, but I remember being like, oh damn, that's it. Like it's over already.
It's certainly worth experiencing on sale. It's, I think even you could admit, just pure like vibes is worth playing.
I'd get it for like 15 or less.
Yeah, yeah.
But there's also fair. Games that like go for 15 normally.
Yeah,
that have,
like Hollow Knight.
Yeah, like infinitely more value to you as a person, and will probably stick with you longer than this game. So you have to be like, oh, I want to play this game. Like I wouldn't recommend it to some dude who's like, what game should I play? Like that's never gonna happen,
Yeah, I mean, if you're a fan of the franchise and you're trying to do a catch up like I am, this is the last time you play as Jill outside of Revelations,
and probably ever.
Yeah. So I don't know. It is, if you're a Jill fan, which even though she's in quite minimal games compared to the rest of the mainline cast, there's a lot of fans out there. She presents well. She's a cool character. She actually has really good dialogue. I think it's less cheesy and more realistic and grounded, I would say.
This interpretation of Jill is very, very good. And even I do like Carlos.
Oh, I love Carlos. I wish that Carlos was in more games.
Yeah, I mean, but he's a bit cheesy because he's just like the military, like, yeah, we're gonna do it. But he's like, he's dumb. But I'm like, yeah, fuck, I love Carlos. Like, I believe him. I believe he's there and a part of my world.
Yeah. And then the big elephant in the room has got to be RE4.
Yes.
Which truly, as a game in the franchise, is the most important game ever made, probably.
Yes.
In terms of, like, comparing it to the other games we've talked about, completely different. Completely separate, narratively, gameplay-wise. It is an action game from start to finish. It's what inspired The Last of Us. It's what inspired third-person shooters as a whole. It's iconic for a reason, and it is incredible.
Every action survival horror game after Resident Evil 4 was made, the original, in 2005, every action survival horror has been trying to replicate that magic since. Dead Space, Evil Within, what's another one? Chronos, The New Dawn. All of that DNA is trying to be Resident Evil 4 when that shit came out. But yeah, you're totally right. It totally changed from, survival horror. Even the original Resident Evil 3. The Resident Evil 3 remake is, actually makes the original Resident Evil 4 seem tame in comparison sometimes. But, Resident Evil 1, 2, and 3 for the original were very kind of like, you really couldn't do that much. And, a lot of it was just mostly like wandering around on like really dank, tight hallways and trying to survive. And the Resident Evil 4 came out, and there's big open areas. It's like this sprawling map, like fucking huge. Like this game is long too. Resident Evil games are maybe like maximum 10 hours. If you're having like a really tough time, you're getting lost, and you're dying a lot, maybe like 10 hours before you finish the game. Resident Evil 4, normal playthrough, you're gonna rack up like 15 or like at least 13 hours. It's like, whoa, oh my god, this just keeps fucking going. This keeps going. And there's so much freedom of expression in Resident Evil 4. There's so many guns to choose from, tactics that to employ. And like you said, it is almost like Last of Us in a way, where, you're given these big open areas and you're like, how do you want to engage? Do you want to engage from afar with the sniper? Do you want to get up close and like sneak up behind enemies and like throw a grenade? Do you want to go through like the side house, something like that? It's all there. It's genius. It was genius what it is. And you actually really need to play it, I think.
Yeah, I know I do. But that's the thing is, like, the remake is so close to the original that I don't really know why. I mean, I know why they remade it, because money, but I really enjoy the remake to the point that I'm like, if I play the original, I feel like I'm gonna be a little bored. So I'm gonna like wait a little bit before I get back to the original 4, because I just played the remake. They're so similar, you know?
I had a big mouthful of juice, I'm sorry. Yeah, they are very similar. But Resident Evil 4 Remake is a much more polished and modernized experience. Lots of segments from the game from the original are not present in Resident Evil 4. Either they were just cut out entirely or they were replaced with something else. And I do think that there's enough difference in both the tone, the story, the gameplay, and the actual environments you go through. I think there's enough difference to actually warrant both of these games existing at one time. Sometimes you play through, like Resident Evil 1, you could probably nuke the first one from orbit and everything would be fine. But I feel like if you took away one of the other for original 4 and remake 4, there would be some issues.
Yeah, I guess I am interested in playing the original 4, but I'm actually not the biggest fan of RE4 Remake. Like, I that's kind of an exaggeration. I think it's great. I think it's really, really good. But I honestly think I would play RE8 again before I play 4 Remake again.
Oh man, I haven't played RE8, so I can't even discuss it, actually. Like, I can't even formally discuss it.
Here's the thing with 8, is that 8 is the closest you will ever get to 4 without playing 4.
Yes.
It's not as good as 4, it's not as good as 4 Remake, but it is so different. For how much it, presents as similar, it's so different, but it goes for the same thing. It's action, you kill enemies, they drop resources to make more ammo, there's a ton of different guns, there's a ton of big, larger-than-life bosses, the enemies are wild. I mean, 8 is basically 4-2.
Yeah, it's like they were
7-2.
I think they were trying to essentially make, like, another 4 is essentially what they were, like, trying to go for. I mean, and also, not only that, I mean, there's just some straight comparisons and parallels to 4, which I am aware of. I mean, just look at them, first of all. The game starts and you're in, like, what country are you in? Italy? No.
Romania, I guess,
Romania,
which I don't know.
Yeah, you're in some type of, like, Eastern European village. Meanwhile, in 4, you're kind of in, like, a Spanish village. But, like, compare the two, and it's just like, oh, these look very similar, but, like, one has snow. And, you're going into these old castles. I don't think there's a lab in 8. There's like a machinist's workshop, right?
Yeah, well, there's the workshop, and then there's a bit where you play as Chris, where you're in, like, what is essentially a lab.
Okay, yes.
But there's a lot more than even just that. Like, there's
a merchant.
There's the merchant. There's the fishing yard that you go to in RE4. There's essentially a copy and paste of that in 8 as well. The big castle you already mentioned. But it has that same thing where it just keeps going. It's like a marathon, like RE4.
Yeah.
And it's, highs and lows, but I think it starts really strong and it ends really strong. And in the middle, if you're a fan of 100%ing these games, there's a lot for you there. A lot of side puzzles and things to find. Like I said, I've never played 7 all the way through, but it has that 7 DNA as well.
Oh,
with
yeah,
the puzzle types and stuff.
I mean, 7 is very much more similar to the original survival horror trilogy and 1 remake than the later action-oriented ones. We're not going to talk about 5 and 6. 5 and 6, we didn't play yet, at least. And they are just kind of like third-person action games, essentially.
Yeah,
like
I actually think 5
of horror.
5 looks really fun. Like, I'm actually very excited to play 5.
Oh,
6,
yeah, I'm not saying they're
dreading.
not fun. Yeah, I'm not saying they're not, like, fun. People really... I mean, when 5 came out, I think it kind of had some, like, mid reception, but I think people have come to love 5. But 6, I think, is kind of synonymous for, like, meh. Like, people...
The how long to beat on 6 is 28 hours long.
Too much. That's, like... I can't imagine playing a Resident Evil game for that long and being like, oh, God. Well, because there's, like, what, 4 story modes to play through?
There's Leon, Ada, Jake. Is there a 4th one?
I think you play as Chris and Pierce.
Oh, you're right.
So yeah, isn't that fun?
Craziness.
But yeah, so we're not gonna talk about 5 and 6, but we can talk about 7 a little bit. because Jake, you watched me play 7, but yeah, like I was saying, 7 is back to that sort of OG survival horror, those tight hallways. You don't have those crazy moves that you've come to love in 4, 5, and 6. Like 5 and 6 especially. Like 4 was like, oh, that's cool. Like Leon can do like a roadhouse kick and then like a suplex or whatever. And then like 5 comes out, and then Chris can do like left hook. He's like punching boulders at the end, which became like a big meme. And then in 6, like all the characters can do like crazy shit, stuff like that. Resident Evil 7 came out, they were like, nah, none of that. You're playing as Ethan Winters. You're playing as this dude.
Ethan Winters.
You're playing as this dude who you're never gonna see his face except for on his like official model, where he has like a really fat nose for some reason. I don't really know why they did that. It's like very bizarre. But yeah, you're gonna play as Ethan Winters, and he's just a guy, and he does fucking nothing. He can do absolutely nothing interesting. There's nothing interesting about him. Yet somehow the voice actor nailed it. He's just so good at being just like guy who almost cares about what's
You could have
going
stopped it at guy.
Guy, yeah. He's great. I love Ethan Winters. I know everyone like dogs on Ethan Winters. I think he's so funny. I could play as like...
He is so funny because he's so bad. He's fun to laugh at. Leon, Chris, all these folks, they're fun to make fun of because of the things they say, but the way they say them is so genuine that you fall in love with them. Ethan has no genuine thoughts. He has nothing. Ethan
almost like doesn't give a shit about like anything, which is really like juxtaposed with the amount of shit that he's going through for like the women in his life. He's like, I gotta save my girlfriend or my fiance. Or is it his wife? It's his wife.
It's his wife. Well, actually, I don't think they're married in 7 yet, but they are in 8.
Yeah. No, I think they're married.
Okay.
Pretty sure.
So,
and then in 8, his daughter goes missing. He's like, I gotta go get my fucking daughter. I think they kind of fixed him in 8 though, didn't they? Not like totally, but they kind of, his performance was much less like, I really don't want to be here right now. Like, not like, oh, I really don't want to be here right now. He was like, I don't want to be here right now.
No, they didn't fix it in 8.
Oh, they didn't?
No, not at all. If anything, they doubled down on what they already had. And I want to test the waters, because I'm sure you look up the story for like every game. Do you know like how 8 resolves and like what happens to Ethan and all that?
Yeah, I do. Should we do a spoiler alert right now? Skip ahead like 5 minutes?
Sure. Spoiler alert for the end of RE8.
Yeah, mold monster Ethan. Ethan dies like in the first 2 minutes of Resident Evil 7. And then he gets brought back by like the mold virus that is like basically the whole plot point of 7, and I think a lot of to do with 8 or whatever.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then he like super dies at the end of 8, like for real this time.
Yeah. And so as a part of that whole plot thread coming to fruition, they try to, and they actually somewhat successfully justify the way Ethan acts, because they show that like he gets his hand cut off and his first instinct is to put it back on, and like that's just normal to him because he's just a thing. He's not a person.
I mean, it's happened before.
But that's what I'm saying. That happened. Wait, what you mean in 7, or are you talking about before that?
In 7, his hand gets cut off like from the beginning of the game.
That's what I'm talking about. In 7, that happens, and his first thought is he can just put it right back on. And when we played 7, we were like, what the fuck? Why? What is this? It's because he is literally just like an instinctual being that has like the smell of a memory from Ethan's original brain.
Yeah.
And that's why he literally doesn't care about anything. And I'm like, okay, sure. The fact that you had to justify the way this asshole acts is kind of a stretch, but okay.
I think it's really funny, and it was like definitely a post 7 thing. Like, do you think that they made 7 and they were like, yeah, this is, maybe they had it like in the writing table. They're like, what if he dies? Because, well, you play as, well, actually, no, I guess you don't. Well, Jill, the whole thing with Jill now is that she was like cured, like she was infected by the T virus, but that she's cured, but so she gets all like these benefits, but that she doesn't get all like the negative side effects, something like that. Like that's like Jill's thing now. Probably why they can't bring her back, because they don't know how to deal with her. So that's kind of like a similar thing in 7, where you're kind of playing as this person who's actually, for the first time in a Resident Evil series, like affected by the virus. I guess Resident Evil 4, you're infected by it, but I mean, you know what I'm trying to say. You're like, oh, I am a bioweapon. I am the biohazard. For once,
in RE7 and 8, you can put your limbs back on. In RE4, Sadler tucks through your controller, so that's the extent.
Sadler talks to your controller while your girlfriend is napping, and you can hear her waking up, and you don't know how to switch the microphone to just be the headphones, and you're really panicking. You're putting your fingers over the microphone of the controller. This happened to me like 3 times. It was like a whole thing. I was like, oh, fuck. Yeah, I don't know. I love Ethan. I'm excited to play through 7, and I'm excited to play through 8, because also, I know in... there's that... Yeah, he gets his arm cut off in 8, like, again. Well, because a lot of the things... Because that's a big difference with... between the old games and the new games, is that in 8 and 7 and now in 9 there's first person. It's like it's in first person. Like 7 and 8 is totally in first person, besides like an extra mode where you can be third person for whatever reason.
You can play through 8 in third person from start to finish.
You can play through in the entirety. But the thing is that like the reason why they like cut off his hand and shit like that and like do all these weird things to him is because they were like, how can we? I think he says like, what is it? His like right hand, like all of his fingers get bit off, like 3 of his fingers get bit off.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's because they're like, oh well, it's first person, so how are we gonna like show like scary like horror stuff?
Yeah.
Like let's just fuck up his hands a lot. I think there's a secret scene in 7 where you can get your leg cut off.
Jack catches you.
Yeah, Jack catches you, cuts off your leg, and then he tells you, he like literally, like. That's kind of maybe some evidence that maybe they did know this whole thing, like this whole time. Because in that scene, Jack cuts your leg off with a shovel, and then he like puts down, he like walks across the room, and he puts down a first aid bottle, and he's like, "Come on, come get it, and put your leg back on." Like almost like a tutorial. Like he's like playing with you, like, look, let me show you what you can do now. Because I know, because I'm infected by the, like, what is it, the megamycete or whatever?
The mold, yeah.
Yeah, the mold. Like, I'm infected with the megamycete, so I know what's going on. Let me show you what you can do now. And so he kind of, like, shows, like, and I think that's kind of cool. But there's a scene where he gets his arm cut off in 8, and it's, like, almost comical, because he, like, flips out a lever, and then Lady Trish, like, cuts off his arm. And then he, like, cartoon watches his arm, like, flop down. He goes, oh, shit!
Yeah.
Which I think is really funny.
All right, last little thing about 8, because this actually is something I was going to ask about 9, but I'd rather get it out of the way while we're in spoiler mode.
Sure.
So do you know about the end of 8, how it connects back to 1?
Connects back to 1? What? No?
Okay, I won't say anything then, but 8 kind of ties the modern universe back into the old school Resident Evils in a pretty interesting way.
Oh,
So I was kind of interested if they touched on that in 9 at all, because it seemed like that was like the big reveal at the end of 8.
They actually do. I guess we're going to start talking about Resident Evil 9 now.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
So it's time to talk about Resident Evil 9. This might be one of the most anticipated releases of the year, I think.
It's mine for sure.
Yeah, due in part that fact that they brought back Leon. Even though Leon really hasn't gone anywhere. I mean, we just had 2 games with Leon in the past, like, 5 years or 8 years or something like that. Yeah, RE remake.
It just feels more important because those were remakes. So
yeah,
it feels like the new development.
Yes, and now he's old. Except he's really not that old. I don't think he breaks 50. I think
he's like 45.
Yeah, he's like 49 or something like that. I don't know. And this is like, I don't even know how to describe it. It's like they took how they are advertising it, because now there's 2 protagonists. There's Grace Ashcroft and then there's Leon Kennedy. So they were advertising this game as Grace is going to be the classic Resident Evil. Leon is going to be modern Resident Evil. And we're going to get them mixed together in a new enticing plot where Leon is definitely probably going to die. Certainly not going to be a rug pull at the end where they're not going to kill him, because why would they ever do that? And why would anyone ever think they were going to do that? And it's a really interesting game. I do gotta say, it's a very, very interesting game. And they did put a lot of gumption behind it. I think it's probably their highest produced Resident Evil game. It's like the highest played Resident Evil game ever, I think, on release. And I think it's one of the most highest played games on Steam. Like concurrent players, like peak players. I think it's as one of the highest. It's just crazy for a single player survival horror game to be touting such an achievement. I think, like, what are the sales? Can you look at the sales numbers for me? It's like
I'll get on that.
They sold like millions of copies, and the game has only been out for a couple of weeks compared to like some shit. Like I just got a tweet this morning, or what? I wasn't a tweet. It was like a Reddit post, but it was like a screenshot of a tweet, and it was like the Bravely Default series, which consists of 4 games at this point, if you count Final Fantasy and the 4 Heroes of Light, just surpassed 5 million copies. What are you talking about? 4 games, 5 million copies? Meanwhile, Resident Evil 9 came out, and I think it was like, I don't think it's over 100 million, but I think
it sold 5 million copies in 5 days.
5 million copies in 5 days. That's insane. That is fucking insane, dude. So I don't really know what they were doing with this. Like, they had the perfect advertising campaign that made everybody want to play this game. New fans, old fans, a lot. They were like, "Oh, it's here." I don't know. I think so.
I think it's really weird that they pretended like Leon wasn't in the game, even though we all knew he was in the game for way too long.
Yeah, they did. They did get that giant leak, like 2 minutes into the game being like announced, like the Target leak or whatever. Remember the Grinch leak?
The Grinch leak. Leon was in the Grinch leak.
Was Leon in the Grinch leak?
I don't think he was.
Oh, no.
It seems like he could have been.
The Grinch leak was really funny because like half of the things were like wrong, and then half of the things were like completely correct, like so correct that they couldn't have faked it. Like they got the positioning right on their art on the banner. Isn't that fucking weird?
It is bizarre.
Sorry, side tangent. What was one of the fake things on the Grinch leak? What was one of the...
Isaac from Golden Sun is the one I always remember.
Okay, that's really funny. No one wants Isaac from Golden Sun. It's like, I'm not even gonna front. I'm sure those are great. I have them, and I'm gonna play through them. I have all 3 of them, and I'm gonna play through them.
Hey, but I love Golden Sun, and I love Isaac. I don't care if he's in Smash or not.
Yeah, no one wants him in Smash. Come on, get real. Let's get Dante. Remember when we thought Dante was gonna get in Smash?
I can't believe Dante didn't get in Smash. I really can't believe it.
Yeah, I think about that every year. Every time I look at Byleth, I'm like, damn, he was almost Dante. Anyway, I don't want to talk about that anymore. I want to talk about Resident Evil 9.
Yeah, so before you get into it, I actually, this is a Jake request. I actually don't want spoilers. Because this is like, I'm like, for some reason, I'm super hyped up on the story this time around, even though I really don't care. For some reason, it's really speaking to me. So I'd rather not have any spoilers. Here's what I know. Okay. Grace is an FBI agent who's the daughter of Alyssa from Outbreak. I know Leon is infected with Raccoon City Syndrome or whatever it's called, with the black stuff on his hand. Mm-hmm. And I know that Grace can collect blood to craft items. That's like literally all I know. So if you could keep things story-wise within that realm, that would be great.
Okay. That's perfect. I don't even have to fucking talk about the story. I'll just... Yeah. This is perfect. I will say, however, this is the only thing I'll say, because you did kind of ask it in a way, because you were asking about... So Resident Evil 8, you said ties in with Resident Evil 1. Does it have something to do with Spencer?
Yes.
Okay, Resident Evil 9 does have... It's not like a major part, but I think it's like a significant development, I think. Resident Evil 9 talks about Spencer.
Okay.
Like the guy. So, and that's actually very interesting because, you know, the Spencer Mansion is so iconic. Who the fuck is Spencer? So now it's like,
he's in 5, right? Oswell, he's in the wheelchair.
Is that him?
I think. Doesn't Wesker kill him in 5? That's like the big, like, setting off point for the story.
I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think you're probably right. Yeah, so he's in the game. He's in the game in a form. You'll see.
Okay.
But yes, they do talk about him. And yeah, okay, and I will talk 100% without spoilers. Maybe minor gameplay spoilers here and there.
Yeah, gameplay, I want to know actually everything there is to know about the gameplay.
Yes, I will tell you everything I can about the gameplay. Because honestly, there's really, it's not like, there's not a crazy amount to talk about. You know what I mean? It's a very focused game. Made a very focused game. And I did enjoy it. For the most part. So, dun, dun. Like I said, yeah, dun. We'll maybe talk about that. So, like I said, the game is split into basically 2 play styles. There's Grace, and there's Leon. You play as Grace for a majority of the first third of the game, I would say. And I think Grace's first section, the first third of the game, is some of the best I think Resident Evil has to offer.
Ooh.
I really think they were really inspired with this opening.
Like in terms of puzzles and survival horror, or like what are we talking about?
Both. Puzzles are not really too important in this one. There's not really a bunch of like RE1 style or even RE2 remake style puzzles, you know, where you're like getting emblems and putting them into weird shit, and Leon's going, "What the fuck is this?" it's like actually pretty realistic and grounded puzzles, I would say, but they're pretty light. So you're not going to be like, it's not a primary focus. I think the primary focus of the game is exploration and discovery. Because the beginning of the game starts out with a couple of like scare segments, very linear scare segments, but they're very immersive. The game looks incredible with HDR. So your character will have like a flashlight. Both characters will have a flashlight, and you're going to be in a lot of dark areas. That flashlight is very important because you cannot see on those dark edges of your screen. So I think it looks very, very good. The environments were made very lovingly. Lots of character, lots of immersion, very convincing. You can buy in very easily that you're there, that you're in that location. And then once you get to the mansion segment, not the Spencer Mansion, but like it's like a clinic sort of thing. I don't exactly remember what it's called. I think it's like the Rhodes Hill like center or something like that. Once you get to that, that's when that's essentially like the Spencer Mansion police station, like RPD station from RE2, where like you're going to be here for the first significant chunk of the game. That part is extremely good, excellent, and because you are given nothing. You are given like so little to fight against these infected individuals, and as you kind of like explore and go from, oh, I'm fucked and I'm gonna like take hits and I'm gonna get like clowned on, I just need to run ahead and I just need to get through this area, you'll find more and more pathways, more shortcuts, more items that'll kind of open you up and kind of prepare you to be able to take on like the threats that are going on. So I think they did it very, very well. And the game is actually legitimately scary and intimidating, which I think is very impressive because I don't think Resident Evil games are necessarily very scary. I think they're more so intimidating, where you're like Jack, I wouldn't say is scary. Jack is like funny. I like Jack. Yeah. He's running around and he's like, oh boy, I'm going to eat you for supper. And you're like, okay, that's funny. Mr. X is intimidating. Like, he's not really scary. He's kind of like, oh, he's a very intriguing design, but I'm not like scared by him. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna get punched really hard and die. Resident Evil 9 has a chaser enemy that isn't to the extent of Mr. X, but probably to the extent of like Jack, where he'll chase you through like a couple of certain segments. Mm-hmm. And she is really fucking scary. She's the one who's been in all the marketing, the giant like hag thing. She's called the Girl, and she's excellent. They were so smart about her audio design, and her visual design too. So she's huge, but she has like trouble seeing. So there's a lot of emphasis on like hiding. But if she does catch like whiff of you, you do have to like book it out of there. And she has the heaviest fucking footsteps. Every time she takes a step, you could hear it like reverberate in the halls, and your controller like vibrates. So I every time she showed up, I went like, oh shit, like it was really, really frightening. And actually, something very interesting is that this new virus that's in the game or whatever kind of changes the way the beginning of the game kind of goes. I think most Resident Evil games start out with like the zombies, and they kind of just all act the same and do the same thing. This virus is actually much more, I would say, like violent and personal, in that a bunch of the zombies have kind of like counterparts. So I don't know if this was ever revealed in any trailers, but a lot of the most of the infected like talk.
Yeah, like they remember their jobs and stuff, right?
Yes, and that it's almost like they're like classes of enemies, essentially. They do different things. So Grace is, of course, Grace only gets like 2 guns in her whole game, if you don't count the Requiem, which is kind of like the get out of jail free card sort of thing.
It's like Leon's big fucking gun, right?
It is Leon's gigantic gun, which is a lot of fun. So you're going to be kind of stealthing around for the most part, and gathering materials and just trying to get out of harm's way. But yeah, there's like, here's a couple of different versions of the enemy. So there is I don't know what you would call him, like concierge maybe. He's like the dudes in suits that walk around the hallways, and they get upset when they see light. So there's like light switches throughout the game that you can turn on and off, like lights. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. And if you're in a hallway with a couple of those guys and you turn on the lights, they're going to be like, no light. And they're going to walk over. They're going to like saunter over to the light switch and like turn it off. That's going to like distract them. That's important. There's one who has like bandages on his head. He carries like an IV stand. And he gets really upset if he hears any noise. So you got to be careful for like broken glass on the floor and stuff like that. And you can actually bait him very effectively using like glass bottles. You can throw it and he'll run over to where you threw it and he'll get really upset. And he may even attack like another zombie and kill it for free for you. That's really fun. And there's like another one where she's like a maid. I don't really exactly know what her deal is, but I know she has some type of deal. But then on top of that, there is a couple of like mini bosses scattered throughout this mansion. And I actually won't spoil this for you because I think these are moments that you're really going to enjoy and be like, oh, this is
I'm excited.
There's one, the one specifically, you'll know the one I'm talking about, where you're going to be like, what is happening? It's awesome. But I'll bring in like the first example, the one you're going to see probably immediately. It's like the chef. And he is this huge infected. He's like buff as fuck. And he wanders around like one area and he's got like a weapon. He's got like a big cleaver. You do not want to get close to him, basically. And he kind of guards like the kitchen area, and he kind of like wanders around to the different stations, and chops up like rotten flesh and shit like that. It's like that's like his whole thing. So that's gonna be your first like instance of like a mini boss essentially, where you can avoid him, but if you kill him, you can get an achievement. And now we can talk about like what Grace has at her disposal, because we have a totally new system of how to gather items in this game. So there's a crafting system, and you know how I feel about crafting systems. But this is actually a crafting system that I think is reasonable and kind of makes sense for you as a player. Like, you're not like, oh, I've gathered 2 pieces of scrap metal and 2 polymer, and now I can make a grenade. It's like, no, it's not like that at all. There is, like you said, like blood throughout the infected blood, like buckets of blood. Sometimes if you kill an enemy with like a headshot and their head explodes, you can get like some blood, collected blood. Some corpses have infected blood. You have a little thing. It's called like the it's like the hemolytic like converter or something like that, and it has like a capacity of like 100. You can upgrade it later. It's like 150, and you absorb, kind of like suck this blood into it, into its vials, and then you can take other items like herbs or scrap metal or this and that, bullets or whatever, and you can convert it with the infected blood to make stronger items. You can make bullets, you can make these med injectors, which are basically just like fully restore your health like immediately, instead of like worrying about like mixed herbs or something like that. But the most important thing that you'll probably really want to do is, they're called like the hemolytic like injector or something like that. Is that what I said? The
converter, I think.
The converter was the thing that I think takes the blood, but like the injector is this item. It's basically this, and this is what Resident Evil I think needed, was an item, was like a stealth takedown. You know what I mean? Like Resident Evil 4 has a stealth takedown, and it works like basically like any other video game. But Resident Evil Requiem has this like stealth takedown where you can create with like a lot of blood and scrap. You can create this thing called like the injector, and it's a consumable item where if you go behind an enemy and you inject it into them, it basically like fucks up their infection, like their infected blood, and causes them to explode violently. And it just instantly kills them. And this could be really good if you're low on bullets, or if there's like a scary enemy that you really don't want to take down. You use the hemolytic injector onto them, and it'll like just take him out for you. But it is using a very valuable resource. So Grace is all about those consumable resources. It's like, do I want to engage with this enemy and clear out this path at the cost of like an injector or a Requiem bullet, which I may not come across another one for a while? Or do I want to just stealth past him, maybe take a hit, and hope I don't have to see him again? So there's all of that kind of gameplay and decision making in the Grace's beginning sections, like the first third of the game. And it's done excellently. I think it's some of the best that Resident Evil has made, especially the basement area. The basement area is really, really, really good. Probably my favorite section of the game, because that's when you have the stalker enemy back in like full swing as the girl. It's just a great segment. I'm really excited for you to play through that. After that, you have a couple, and between some of these segments, you play as Leon, and it's kind of weird because you play as Leon for like 10 minutes or so in these segments, and it's kind of like, oh, that's it? Okay. That's because after Grace's like whole third, the story kind of takes like a dip where a dip in action where our protagonists kind of like officially like meet and are next to each other, and they kind of like part ways, and then some time passes, and then you play as Leon's segment. And Leon's segment is, of course, the Resident Evil 4 gameplay that we've gotten accustomed to. Leon is different, however, in that you are in Raccoon City, the bombed Raccoon City. And Leon's big segment, which is another probably like third of the game, is on the outskirts of Raccoon City. And you're kind of in this like pseudo open world area where you're given like these...
So the Grace stuff isn't in Raccoon City?
No, the Grace stuff is not in Raccoon City. The Grace stuff is in like the town over called like Rhodes Hill or something like that. I think the mansion is called like Rhodes Hill, and then like the town that you're in the beginning of the game is called like Winsburg or something like that. Something with a W. I don't really remember. It's not really important. But yes, Leon's segment, when you actually get to fully play as Leon with like all the things that you remember, such as like a market, buying weapons, currency, weapon upgrades, all that type of shit. That's in Raccoon City. And then the rest of the game is going to be in Raccoon City from that point on. And you play as in this like this pseudo open world segment where you're given basically like you need to gather these like 4 or 5 things. It might be 3 actually, but I think it's like 4. And you basically just like, okay, go do it. And you kind of just go through these long areas filled with combat arenas and special little like hazards and obstacles, and just get these items, and then you're on to like the rest of the game. But yeah, that's like a significant part of the game, is those 2 segments that I just described right there. And then the last like third of the game, you kind of interchangeably switching between these shorter segments between Grace and Leon. I will say the game kind of takes a noticeable quality dip as soon as you're done with Leon's Raccoon City outskirts segment, but it's still very enjoyable, I would say. But it's like a noticeable like, oh, okay, I guess that was that. But Leon's segment is still really good while you're there, and it's kind of almost indistinguishable, like description wise, from something like 4. There's really not that much different to like describe. Sure, the game feels different. You get different items. There's different enemies, but you know, it's the stun locking kind of like stun lock your enemies. It's like you against everyone, like running around, avoiding like congestion, and taking on these combat arenas that you like have already gotten accustomed to with like 4 and to an extent 5 and 6. Yeah. So like, and that's the game. The plot, I will say, is really strong in the beginning. It's like not a beat plot at first. It's a little cheesy maybe here and there. I will say the beginning, the first like the opening scare segments are very linear and on rails, and you do have to play through essentially like a long cutscene in the very beginning. And I was kind of like, oh shit, this game might be a stinker. And then, you know, obviously my tune changed once I actually got to the gameplay, so just like bear with me. But the plot is almost like not B-level. Actually very interesting. It looks like they took a lot of care into like the voice acting and the directing and like what they were going with, a lot of intrigue and like what's going on here. And then it, you know, I would say actually it shits itself. It goes down from a B tier movie to like a C tier movie. It actually, the ending.
Oh no.
The ending dialogue and ending like decision making and like what's going on is actually like genuinely really bad. I won't lie. So the ending is probably, I would say, the weakest of all the Resident Evil endings. But some of the strong, like most Resident Evil games, the best part is the beginning. And that is mostly true. That is like essentially mostly true with Resident Evil 9, to the point where I do think Grace's beginning sections are some of the best Resident Evil has to offer. Alternatively, the ending is really bad.
Oh
really
man.
Bad. Yeah, it's really bad. Sorry. But, you know, hey, two out of 3, you know, ain't too bad. you will just notice that like you're so on rails, and that especially in the Leon segments, you're just so on rails, and you just feel like I had a thought while I was playing through Leon segments at the very end where I was like, I think every player played this segment exactly the same as I did. And that might also be true for the other Leon segments. I can't tell, really. But you kind of realize that the game gives you much less freedom of expression than like something like 4 Remake. You just don't notice it until the very end because it's really, really linear at the end. But I mean, it's kind of not fun at the end. But Leon's other segments are a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, I actually think the end of RE4 is pretty, like, same type of deal when you get to the island.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting that is, like, following the same formula.
I like the island because it's kind of like the final stretch, but I didn't like the security cameras part. That kind of, like, bothered me at the end of 4 Remake, but I kind of like the island because it was just, like, so crazy. Like there's just full of enemies that I didn't really mind. I actually think it could have went more into the direction of how RE4 Remake ends, where they could have thrown just more and more shit at you. It doesn't throw enough shit at you, as a matter of fact. And, you know, I will say, there's a part in the end, and everyone, I think, has memed it to death, and think it's, like, probably the stupidest thing Resident Evil has ever done. But you'll remember when you get to it, and you're gonna go, what? Leon says something at the very end of the game, where you're gonna say, what the fuck are you talking about? And it is, like, played completely straight, dead serious. It's wild. Yeah, so Resident Evil 9 kind of shits the bed at the end. I think it's gonna leave a bad taste on a lot of gamers' mouths. But, and I was kind of like, why isn't anyone else complaining about this online? But, you know, after a couple days, like maybe after like a week after it was released, I saw some guy post something and be like, okay, can we actually talk about the game for real now? What the fuck was that? What was the ending, dude? Yeah, so like the gameplay and the story especially is like really egregious near the end. Spoiler alert, I'm sorry. I will say this right now. If you think Leon is going to die, he's not going to die. Sorry. He's not going to die. There's going to be a lot of like, oh, are they going to take a risk? They don't. I'm comfortable spoiling that for you now because I feel like you're going to like it a bit more if you know for a fact that they're not going to like rug pull everything is okay at the end. It's the exact same in Resident Evil 9. So even though they're trying to convince you in the advertising campaign that like, oh, this might be Leon's last run, he's old and dying, and even though the game might tell you itself that like the stakes are the highest it's ever been, we're not going to get out of this without a sacrifice, don't be fooled, they're not going to do it. I think I can respectfully tell you that now, so you're not like, that was dumb.
Okay, fair. I appreciate that, actually.
But now I'm open for a question. That's kind of how I feel about the game. I think it was worth playing on release. I had a lot of fun with it. I won't give a numerical rating because those are arbitrary and silly. I did really like it, but it has massive flaws. And if it wins Game of the Year, I'm gonna shit my pants because it is not a Game of the Year. It's not even the best Resident Evil game.
I don't think Resident Evil's ever gonna have a shot at Game of the Year, unfortunately.
I think this one is gonna be on the list. I'm 100% positive that this one will be on at least the nominees.
Oh, I'm sure. There's not that many big games coming out this year, so I wouldn't be surprised at all. But like, RE2 was nominated, and it didn't stand a chance at the Game Awards. So really, if RE2 is not gonna win it, nothing's winning it.
Who won in 2018? That was Sekiro.
Sekiro.
No, I think 2019 was Sekiro.
Oh, you're right. It was it Red Dead or God of War? One of those.
I think it was God of War.
Yeah.
Yeah, or I don't remember.
It doesn't matter, but yeah, if RE2 wasn't gonna win it, 9's not gonna win it.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's okay with me because, like you said, the beginning part of these games are the most memorable anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I would rather play a relatively boring on rails Resident Evil than a majority of other AAA games coming out right now. So I'm not like dissuaded at all. If anything, I think it's kind of on par because I think the ending stretch of a lot of these games is kind of boring. Maybe
yes, I agree. I do like the lab segment at the end of 2 though. That's like kind of one of my favorite parts of the game is the lab section, and I don't really know why. because it is pretty linear. But I really do like the lab section. I think I like the aesthetic and the visual bit. Something about it that's very intriguing. You know what I mean? Better than the sewer segment.
I don't know. I think it's like these games are so short that it's hard to say that I get burnt out on them. But like, by the time you get to the lab in 1, or the lab in 2, or the lab in 3, or the island in 4, I'm kind of like,
lab in it.
Yeah, with the lab in it, I'm kind of ready for it to wrap up. And then you have like a whole other new, like Resident Evil 2, for example, RPD and the sewers and all that, they're all connected. Like, you can go back up to the police station and finish up stuff whenever you want, and then you leave. And now I'm in a whole new area, and I'm like, okay, that's okay that we're like leaving the area I was already in, but this area doesn't feel as fleshed out as the last one. So it just feels a little bit like extra stuff tacked on to me. And that's kind of the vibe I'm getting, what you were talking about for 9, where it's like this ending part's sort of just linear, like getting to, like barreling towards the finish kind of thing. So it's not like a deal breaker, obviously.
Yeah, and that's kind of, that's actually kind of an issue that's sort of for the whole game. I feel like on my first playthrough, I was just a little diligent to like go through as much as I could on the map. The map doesn't even have, like, because RE2 and 3 and 1 tells you when you've collected everything in like the room. You know what I mean? So you kind of like, you can kind of 100% that game very easily. I feel like I was just moderately diligent, and I have uncovered everything I could have about Resident Evil 9, except for like that weird, bizarre final puzzle that's been making the rounds recently, which I won't talk about, but maybe we'll talk about it in the next episode, because it's really bizarre.
I don't like that, because I do love to 100% these games.
Yeah. I mean, it's like it's not even an achievement. So
I don't think it normally is to like get all the rooms cleared. I don't think that normally is an achievement. I don't even think you get like cheese pizza points for it or anything.
No, yeah, cheese pizza points. Yeah, so you will, if you're just like moderately diligent, you'll basically get everything that the game has. Like, there's really not a lot of like stones unturned for you to find, which also again bothers my freedom of expression. Like, I think I played this the same as everyone else and I got everything. You know what I mean? Yeah.
How are the weapons in the Leon segments? Are they?
I do like the weapons. The weapons are very fun. There's almost like 3 for each class of weapon. There's like 4 classes of weapon. There's pistols, a shotgun, rifle, and submachine gun. And I think there's like 2 submachine guns, 2 rifles, I think 2 shotguns, and 4 pistols. And there's also the Requiem, if you want to count the Requiem. And they are a lot of fun. The rifles specifically are magical. The shotgun is really, really good. If you get that mid-range, like range extender for the shotgun, it's really, really good. And then I went with the silenced pistol to try to like okay, I have a bunch of loud options. Let me get like the silenced pistol. That was really, really good. There's also like hollow sights that switch your perspective from third person to the first person, unless you're playing Leon in first person, which you can do.
Which is a crazy thing to do.
It is crazy, but the game plays like very smoothly either or, depending on what you do. And those are kind of disorienting, so I would maybe not turn those on, but it's still like really, really, really good. My favorite combination, which I think a lot of people are going to have this combination, was the Marksman 1A or something like that, which is kind of like a M14 type weapon, like semi-automatic rifle. And you can put a silencer on it, and without sights, you can just like, it's kind of like a short range. Like, imagine the rifles in like Resident Evil games are usually like slow but high powered, meant to be used at a distance. Imagine that power of a rifle, but fast as shit, and you can just unload enemies right in front of you. That's what the rifle is. It's really, really good. You will never run out of bullets. You will never run out of health. But you will probably lose certain encounters. Like, I don't think you probably won't fight, like, get through an encounter and, like, get through by the skin of your teeth. It's either, like, you're going to get through the encounter or you're probably going to, like, die. And I actually did die a lot as Leon. Something about... he moves very differently than he does in 4. He's a lot slower. And the parry window...
Because he's old.
Because he's old and infected. and the parry window on the hatchet is much tighter, I would say. The hatchet is basically the new knife, but instead of having it be like a consumable, you can only repair it at like the merchant or whatever. You can just kind of like Monster Hunter sharpen it like whenever you want. And you can even do like melee combos with it, which is like kind of cool. If you knock an enemy down to the ground, you can just hit R2 and just insta kill the enemy, which is really convenient because there's gonna be a lot of enemies coming at you at once. And there's also like body armor that is there, kind of like in RE4 remake, which is pretty valuable, although it will kind of like break immediately. But yeah, Leon, at a certain point, Leon becomes like mostly boss fights, mostly these like almost like a boss rush. You're gonna get these short segments of Leon fighting these big bosses. Yes, it is kind of cool. However, think about like all the bosses in Resident Evil 2 remake. Like G2 or
oh,
like
you mean
G4.
like the worst boss fights in gaming history?
Yeah. But you feel like you're fighting them. You feel like you're at odds with them, that you're having like a bout with them. You know, it kind of takes a couple minutes. You're kind of fighting for your life. The bosses in Resident Evil Requiem, Leon has like probably maybe like 6 boss fights. And the first 2 are of reasonable difficulty, as you would expect, and then you fight like the homage, the boss, kind of like the throwback boss, and then all of a sudden like you kill it really easily, and you're like, oh well, that's just phase 1, and it's not. And then every boss after that is really, really easy.
Weird.
Yeah, so the bosses are really easy, and like, you know, even RE4 remake, the bosses are tough. You're gonna be fighting like, I don't know, the big cheese, the village chief. Like, that was like a whole thing where you're running to and fro. Probably take a couple minutes. You kind of get an idea of like their patterns, stuff like that. Most of the bosses after a certain point in Requiem were just like dead, especially the final boss. The final boss is actually kind of pathetic. You're like, oh, that's it? Okay. Well, not to say that something like Evelyn at the end of 7 is really a good final boss, but...
So is this one of the ones where you have to finish it once to unlock hard mode?
You have to finish it once to unlock insanity mode. The options are not very in depth. You have like assisted mode, normal mode, and then like hardcore mode. And hardcore mode is like slightly more difficult, but you have to use like ink ribbons during like races segments or some shit like that. And that, from what I was researching, the game still isn't very difficult. It's still like shockingly easy. I think it's because they didn't plan out how strong the player would get near the end of the game. Like, even near to the middle of the game, you can get so many upgrades. Again, there's really not that much to seek out, so you're gonna get all this money just naturally and get all these upgrades naturally, and the bosses seem to like not scale with someone who has like upgraded weapons, so that's why they die really, really easily. So I really just think they fucked up the balance, frankly, for like the later half of the game. But there is a 4th difficulty mode once you beat the game normally, I believe, called Insanity Mode, and that mode alternatively is way too difficult. Enemies have so much health, they do so much damage, but the reason why Insanity Mode is like actually not very good is because it changes the way the game works entirely by making the stagger percentage, like the stagger rate of enemies, only 1/10% than what it was normally. So now the game is like incredibly more difficult. Imagine playing a fighting game where the hit frames, like the stagger frames from hitting an enemy is reduced to 10%.
Yeah.
It would change the entire fucking game. So I've heard a lot of people not really like Insanity Mode because it's too hard, and then the normal game is a bit too easy. But again, it's only like that for like the later half of the game. But it's just kind of bizarre.
Yeah, I don't know, because I played RE4 and Separate Ways on hardcore, and I really, really liked it, but I think professional is kind of what you're talking about. Like, why would I ever put myself through this?
Yeah.
So I was planning on playing RE9 in that mode, but if that's the mode where you have to use the ink ribbons, I'm probably not going to touch it. Because thank God we stopped doing that.
Yeah, you have to use ink ribbons in the hardcore mode. At least for Grace. I'm not really sure for Leo, but the thing is, Grace's segments And also, you can get really souped up at the end for Grace, but Grace's segments at the beginning, you're like, fuck, this game is too hard. You know? So, like, you don't really need to. It's just that I just think they fucked up the balancing a little bit. Like, you're just kind of too powerful at the end.
But there was kind of some of that in 8 as well, so I don't know what's going on over there. Because in 8, it's not like 4, where you can pick what weapons you want and take them all the way to the end. You just find, like, a better shotgun.
Yeah.
And it's better than the fully upgraded version of the last shotgun you had, so you just sell that and then upgrade the new one. And if you found all the guns, there was no challenge, because you were always so much more powerful than the enemies. If you chose to stick with the original guns, I feel like that actually was a pretty challenging way to play through that game. So I don't know what's going on. Like, I don't know why they think they have to make it so easy or so hard. Like, what? I don't know.
I don't really know, but I really never had that problem for a remake. I thought that the difficulty was very... you know, very there from the beginning to the end. Especially with the island segment, where you get not only like the beefed up enemies, but there's a bunch of different types of enemies. The ones with the shields, like the ones with the boar heads with the shotgun, with the crossbows on their arms, and the big sledgehammers. The what is it? The regenerators or whatever.
God.
Yeah, you know, like that's difficult. You know, I don't know. They you know, they just fucked it a little bit.
Yeah. Is there mercenaries? Or is there anything like that?
No, but they gotta be putting in mercenaries.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't know if they will, because they did just release. They just announced that they're making 2 DLCs, and one of them is like a supposed to be a story mode DLC, which I'm like frankly not very interested, because I don't really know what the fuck it could possibly be. But maybe the other one is going to be mercenaries. I hope they do, because the combat is really good, but it kind of has the problem that Last of Us 1 has, where there's not enough.
See,
I needed more.
I disagree on that, but...
Oh, okay.
I don't like The Last of Us 1 combat. 2, on the other hand.
Yes, 2, I really... Yes, okay, I agree. But, like, The Last of Us 1, the segments are kind of like... I feel like I can sequentially go through every combat segment because they're so choreographed, and they're kind of few in number, actually. Meanwhile, Last of Us 2, there's so much that I couldn't possibly remember everything. But I kind of have, like, the encounters in Last of Us 1 down to a science, because they're always the same every single time. And that's kind of the same exact feeling I have with RE9, is where I'm like, oh, wait, we're done? I thought there was more. I wish there was more.
That doesn't bode well.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, always wanting more versus having too much. But actually, you know, when the gameplay is really fun, I kind of wish the game was a bit too long, but this one kind of ends a bit. It kind of leaves you wanting. But you're not gonna... actually, let's talk about this. Here's the problem. Here's actually a real problem. The reason why it leaves you wanting, but not in a good way. A game that leaves you wanting in a good way is something... When I played through The Last of Us and I beat The Last of Us 1 for the first time, I said, oh shit, I'm playing through this game again right the fuck now. And I did. I just played through it straight through again because I loved it so much and I wanted more of the combat. I knew I can get more of the combat. I did the same thing with RE4 Remake, where I was like, I need to play through it again, so I did. RE Requiem, I said, I want more of that combat, but I don't want to go through Grace's segment again. Even though I loved Grace's segments, I'm satisfied with them. I don't want to play them again right now. I don't want to play through all of them again just to get to Leon's segment, and then finish Leon's segments and be like, fuck, I want to play through that again.
That's kind of bizarre that you can't do chapter select or something.
You can't do chapter select. You can't be like, only play through Leon and Grace's segments. It's like, I don't really know. I don't know if they should have done like a B scenario, A scenario type of thing. It's just like, I don't know. I think their philosophy kind of falls apart in the end. I feel like they didn't take as much care as they should have at certain points. They had such a strong beginning and most of the middle, and then they were just kind of like, what now?
All right, last question, because we're coming up on time here. I'm planning to play Grace and Leon in third person. Do you think that's a mistake?
I do, actually.
Really?
Yes, because Grace's first person segments are very intimate. They're so in your face and frightening, and also there is slight gameplay detriments to playing as Grace in third person. There is entirely new animations for playing as Grace in third person, including when you're running away from an enemy, she might straight up fall flat on her face and you're like stumbling around for like a couple seconds, and the enemy like can catch up to you and kill you in third person. I'm dead serious.
I believe it. That's kind of one of the reasons I was planning on playing in third person, because I know, like, when they first announced you could choose both, I was like, oh, well, I'm going to stick the first person, because, like, RE7 is so scary in first person. I want it to be scary. But, like, the reaction animations and, like, navigating the world and everything in third person, I don't know. I feel like that's part of it for Resident Evil.
Yeah, I don't. But I mean, you could try it. I think it'd be kind of a shame. I think that's kind of more of a second playthrough kind of thing, because Grace is really supposed to be, I really think, just supposed to be like such an intimate, like, front-facing horror experience. You want to be like in her eyes, and she kind of moves like really slowly as well. Like, just like Leon, like, you just move slow as shit in this game. Like, you'll be sprinting, you're like, that's the sprint. And there's a lot of like, oh god, it's right behind me in first person, and I don't know how different it is in third person. I would suggest playing through the way the developers intended it, because, you know, even though they did set up this mode to play in third person, the developers did intend to play, you know, the default options are Grace first person, Leon third person, so I would say try that. But, you know, in the end, the decision's yours. But I can just imagine that the horror is going to be much more effective in first person.
I'll consider it.
Yes.
I can't imagine playing as Leon in first person, though. That sounds insane.
I've seen it. It's actually shockingly well done. I kind of thought it would be a little janky or some shit like that, like first person mods and I don't know, any game that's third person and doing like a true
GTA first person mode.
Yeah, GTA first person. Exactly. I thought it was going to be something like that, but no, it's actually very well polished and has like totally different animations. They were very... It's certainly the most polished Resident Evil game I've ever played. I had no problems. Like, I had like literally one glitch happen, which I'm sure they patched it out now. Because Leon's weapons are all like on his person, attached to him like by a strap, like a, you know, like a briefcase,
like a sexy
strap.
Little harness thing.
Yeah, like a harness. And I would have this glitch happen where the strap would get totally rigid and like shoot out like a big bar. So it would just be like the normal game, and then there'd just be this really long strap where the model gets fucked up and is like totally rigid. But yeah, like I said, it's the most like polished Resident Evil game. They put so much money behind it. The game looks so good. The audio is so good. There's like little to no hiccups. Yeah, it's very convincing. Very, very convincing game.
Okay, I'm very excited. I got a couple more to get through, but then I'm gonna be playing that shit soon.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was doing. I was like, oh, I'm not gonna play through 8 yet, because I'll play through the whole series, and then I'll be ready for 9, and then 9 kind of showed up faster than I thought it'd be, and I was like, yeah, fuck it, whatever. Fuck 8, I don't care.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm sure that you can play this game without having played any of the other ones and still have plenty of fun, but...
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, actually, because it kind of does get... There's a lot of nostalgia.
Okay.
Very borderline nostalgia bait. Nah, not borderline. It's kind of nostalgia bait at certain points.
Are we talking like returning characters, or like, what are we talking? References?
Not like huge... Like, they brought this character back for Resident Evil 9. Like, you know, Claire's not going to show up. Or anything. It's more or less like, oh, that's in the game? That's really cool.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Cool, that's exciting.
So, there is probably going to be... You might not even realize what's happening, but there is a boss fight. We're going to be like, oh, is that... Oh, was that him? Wait, what?
Okay.
And then you're going to go, wait, that's it?
I'm going to keep an eye out for that.
You'll know. I'm pretty sure everything I've said is so unsubtle, both on my part and on Capcom's part, that you're gonna go, oh, that's what he was talking about.
All right, yeah, I'll have to come back and listen to this after and be like, oh shit.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's
pretty
it.
good. Yeah.
Okay.
That's all I have to say about Resident Evil 9. Resident Evil fans are eating well this lifetime, so yeah, I'm sure if you're a Resident Evil fan, you've already fucking played it, but you know, it's not the best Resident Evil game, but it's not the worst Resident Evil game. I would say it's certainly worth your time. I would buy it full price. Not full price. I would not, like, if I had to buy it again, I would not buy it full price. I would wait until it was on like a slight sale, and then I would say it's 100% worth your money.
Okay. I'm sure it's going to be on sale for $20 in about a month, so.
Yes, yes. Capcom loves their sales.
All right, is that it? Are we wrapped up?
Oh yeah, we're done. I'm good.
All right. That's been the Resident Evil episode, everyone. See ya.
Okay.
Bye.
Are you not gonna do the outro or anything?
Nah.
No?
Nah.
All right.
Bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.